I have the honor to introduce a wonderful, wonderful lady. I am speaking today with Jania, and I think you have Jania Aebi, but you have to pronounce your second surname for me.
Aebi, like ABC without the C. Aebi,
You
Aebi.
have a double name, right? Jania Aebi.
Oh, Aebi Potocka. Potocka is my Polish name.
Yeah.
And it's sitting in my passport as well, but, it's kind of long, so I don't use it on a day-to-day basis.
So you just call yourself Jania Aebi.
Aebi, that's right.
I discovered Jania like a couple of weeks ago by accident. I mean, there's no accidents in this world. I read an article about a lady who became a healer in her late 70s and opened her practice in her 80s. And my heart went out. I thought, I must talk to this wonderful girl or lady because I found the story so inspiring. And I'm so happy that you take time to talk to me today about your personal way and your experience. And for me, you're a wonderful example that there's like no time limits for anything. Like we are always evolving, emerging, growing. And also, I think we will hear this when you talk about more about your personal way, that guidance will guide us anyway, if we like it or not. So we can't escape our talents in a way.
That is so true, Katarina. So true. It's amazing. I'm still trying to integrate it and make myself believe it, but it really is very true.
So how do we start? Do you want tell me how you started your healing practice, and we take it from there. Like, I think we will find out more about you and your way and your story, but how did you become a healer? Because I remember you telling me I didn't want to become a healer.
Yeah, that's right. I never wanted to be a healer. I even actively resisted it because, when I was younger and people in my family got ill, I remember one time my mother got a little bit sick, just flu or something. I could hardly go into her bedroom. I was so resistant to doing anything for anybody who was in the least not well. And but on the other hand, they all appreciated me. I couldn't understand why or how it happened. I was resisting it, and yet they were always saying how nice I was, how helpful I was. So anyway, I never did want to become a healer. And what happened was, I don't know where to start this because it's, my whole life is one thing after another.
Wherever you want to start, I think we can spread from there in all directions.
In all directions. Okay, well, I'll just start with how I started how I realized I was supposed to be a healer. I was in America at that time, and all of a sudden, my right foot started swelling and, looking like it was infected. Within a couple of weeks, it was bright red, verging on violet.
Wow.
And people were saying, go to the hospital, you have to have it looked after. And I was saying, I don't want to go to hospital because I haven't done anything to it. There's no reasonable reason for it. And we did have a nurse on the premises, and the nurse said, you've got to get antibiotics. And I said, okay, let's get antibiotics. So she got them for me. And they didn't do any good. So my foot was getting worse and worse and worse. So in the end, since I was already on a spiritual path, I started asking questions of God. Not questions, what have I done to you? to have this problem because I couldn't even walk, and I was going home within a week. It was quite scary. I couldn't walk. Couldn't put any pressure on the foot. I could see that the skin would burst if I even touched it. I mean, so it was really bad.
And there was no outer reason for it to happen?
No, I hadn't done anything to it. I just knew that I hadn't done anything to it. And so I was sitting there asking God for guidance, for what am I supposed to do to heal this? And one evening, it was nighttime, I was sitting there, and what came into my head it wasn't a vision, it was just like two people I had met quite a few years before. One was a medium and a healer and a shaman. And a few years later, I met a woman who was also a healer and a shaman. So the first one, I was at a conference, and he, sort of kind of pointed at me, and I was right in the back of the people sitting there. And he said, "You over there, you're a healer." So I looked at him as though he was mad, and ashamed to say I burst out laughing because it just seemed funny. I wasn't a healer. I had nothing to do with healing. I hardly knew what healers did. I just wasn't, it wasn't me. And so I said, "No, absolutely not. Nothing to do with healing." And he said, I know. But I'll tell you why you don't want anything to do with it." And he did.
Oh.
He did. He told me why, and he said, "It's my choice." Choice is the word we often use. It was my choice whether I would go with it or whether I refuse it. And I was so in resistance to it all that I said, I'm not a healer, I have a spiritual life. I thought I had a spiritual life. And I was praying to God. I had my practices, and I thought I was doing good. And I forgot all about it. Just totally forgot. A few years later, this woman who I was introduced to, off the bat, she just said, "You're a healer." So I looked at her and I said, "No, why are you saying this?" And the other person that told me that, I didn't even remember I'd been told that before. It was so out of my consciousness. And I forgot all about her too, immediate. And now I'm sitting here with this problem in my foot, and these two people just drop into my head together.
So you suddenly remembered?
I suddenly remembered both of them absolutely together, and I almost heard, the words, "You're a healer." Almost. I'm not a clairaudient or clairvoyant or anything like that, but it was just a knowing of these words that had been told to me twice over, and I didn't listen. And in that instant, I realized that my problem would never go away, and it would get worse unless I listened.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened within seconds of that whole realization? It was just one packet of a realization that came to me. And I committed. I committed to God, and I said, "God, if you want me to do this, I'll do it."
Wow.
But I have no idea where to even start, and you have to bring me everything I need, because I just don't know what to do or how to do it. I know nothing about it. And that evening, I had put the ball into God's court, and I went to bed quite happy, actually, because I'd committed. I knew I was supposed to do it. But on the other hand, I was thinking to myself, God's got to do this for me, otherwise I don't know how to do it. So I was at peace. I was really at peace, in spite of the pain of my foot and in spite of it, being the way it was. I went to bed. really peaceful, fell asleep. Next morning, my foot was down by half.
Wow.
The pain was almost gone. And the day after, my foot looked as if it never had anything wrong with it at all. Everything was gone. The swelling was gone, the redness was gone, the pain was gone. My foot was totally normal.
I love this story. And you know what I find so amazing? So many people want to find their purpose, like they're longing for a voice telling them what to do. This is what we all want to know, like, what is my purpose? And then we dream about an angel coming down and telling us, this is what you're supposed to do. But the interesting thing is that even if we know what we should be doing, the problem is like embodying it and growing into it and trust into our intuition, or trust into this information. That's the reason why I love your story so much, because you had the information, but it took time.
It did.
And like almost losing your leg to dare to go for it.
Yes. And God only speaks to us in a soft voice. The world is always shouting at us, do this, do that, do the other, and God's voice is really soft. And I realized this too, because I had things wrong with my feet, always my feet, and that's an indication that I'm not going forward in my life as I should be. Always with my feet. I twisted an ankle, I twisted another ankle.
Me too.
Well, there you go.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's an indication that you are not moving forward as your spirit wants you to. And I had these things over and over, and every time it was a little bit worse. Every time it took longer to heal, and every time it was a bit worse.
Wow.
I can think of maybe 4, 5, 6 times I had an accident, so-called, to my feet, and it was always an accident, always. So I say, oh, well, it's just an accident. It's just an accident, That's all it is. It's not being aware.
Yeah.
And my last accident, of course, was I slipped on I think it must have been oil on the floor or something, on a stone floor.
Oh.
I slipped. I was carrying a huge tray of something. I didn't see where I was going, and I went flying, landed right on my back, and broke my hip.
Oh, no.
Yeah. That was because every time was a little bit worse, and now that time was really bad, and I still didn't understand.
Was that before the incident with your foot?
Yeah.
That was before.
That was before.
Wow. So, and I think like your foot was as bad that people even were scared that you might lose it, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They couldn't see. Antibiotics didn't do any good. Nothing was working. And they said, well, an operation, and, if it, you might lose your foot or worse, So I don't know. Anyway, even with breaking my hip, I did not realize, because it was always an accident.
Uh-huh.
I always chalked it up to an accident. And then that time, there was no accident.
Mm-hmm.
You see? It was totally unrelated to anything. It started all on its own. No accident, nothing. And I couldn't understand why I had a problem when I hadn't done anything to it.
So how did your story continue? Like your foot went back to normal within 2 days, and then?
Yeah, well,
because you told God, bring it on, right?
Bring it on, yeah. Well, being me, of course, my foot was fine. I was flying home. I got home and I completely forgot about the whole thing.
You forgot.
Oh, of course, as I always do. I mean, we're all human, aren't we? We just forget everything that's bad. We immediately forget. So I forgot about this as well. But within 3 days of getting home, I get a phone call from a friend who said, I've just heard of a workshop that is being given and it's not far from us. I really want to go to it and I would love you to come with me. I know you're not interested in healing. It's a healing workshop.
Healing workshop.
Yeah, because she's a kinesiologist and she wanted to do this. And she had often told me, why don't you study kinesiology? So I said, I'm not interested. I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. I know you're not interested, but, I really would like you to come with me, do this workshop. And when she said that, of course, I realized it was brought to me on a platter.
Right in front
of me. All I had to do is say yes, and go. Yeah.
So you went.
So I went, and that was my first healing workshop.
Uh-huh.
And it worked really well. I was amazed. I was totally amazed at the things we were taught. Mm-hmm. And even the practices we had, in the days that followed. The people I practiced on said, oh my God, my pain's gone. And this is gone, and that is gone, and that's got better. I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. And when I got really used to that, then I was thinking to myself, there must be something better, something that works quicker, something that requires less, work. And as I was thinking about this, something pops up, somebody tells me something, or I get an email from nowhere in my computer that tells me something, and I don't usually open emails, from people I don't know. I just delete. But this email kind of, I said, hey, that might be interesting. So I kept it. And that was another workshop for another modality. And I've done many, many modalities, many workshops. And every time I thought to myself, there must be something better. This is so much better than the previous one, but there must be something more, something more.
Is it like you remember that there is something more?
It's like I know there is something more.
This is what I mean, like something in you knows, kind of remembers that you maybe have been
something in me knows that there is something better than just the healing modalities I was doing and I was studying, and they really, everyone was an improvement. Everyone brought me something I didn't have before. Mm-hmm. They're all beautiful. They're all so good. But I was feeling that there must be a better way. There must be an easier way. And I'm still feeling that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You still have your hunger.
Less, because I think I have come to realize what the ultimate is, and the ultimate healing is just being one with God. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. To be one with God, which is not easy to achieve. But this is what we strive for, being one. Mm-hmm. And when you are one, it's a feeling that you can't compare to anything else. It's beautiful. It really is.
And it's also like the closer we get, the quicker the healing is?
Well, not necessarily.
Okay, tell me.
Not necessarily, because healing, I don't do any healing. Mm-hmm. It's the spirit within me, which is the same as the spirit within you, that does the healing. And when you're one with spirit, you must surrender to the wisdom of the spirit. Mm-hmm. And it always is possible that the problem a person has is for their highest good. It is so that they can understand something. Like my foot.
Like your foot, yeah.
It was for my highest good, and nothing would work. Nothing would work unless I understood what it meant.
Yeah.
It was up to me. So it really is always up to the client or the person who has a problem to really understand what they must integrate, what they must understand, how they must get closer to God. So I started with just healing physical ailments. And it worked. And it worked because I was given clients where it could work, you know, to give me confidence that it does work. But it does not always work. And it can. But it does work as soon as you've understood. You know. So the healing I do may be instant, may take a day, may take a week, may take a month, may take 10 years. I wouldn't know.
How do you actually work with clients? Like you talk to them, or how do you help them get closer to their spirit and to God?
They must want that. You know, some people just come for a physical healing. You know, my foot hurts, I want it better. That's all they're interested in. And it may or may not get better because I can feel into the person and correct imbalances in their emotional body, correct imbalances even in their structural physical body. And it does work, but not always. When it doesn't work, it's simply that the person is not ready. It would not be for their highest good, and the highest good is always connection with spirit. Always. So I try and make them understand that they are really not a body, although they identify with the body. Basically, we are a spirit, and that's what we are. There's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
Whether you recognize it or not, you are that. But it does help to recognize it. You know, it's like a river that flows by your house. If you recognize it and go and look at it and be happy with it, it fills you with happiness. But if you forget all about it, the river still flows. So it's like that with spirit. The spirit always flows through you, always. If you recognize it, it can flow better. And if you don't, you don't. And you live your life like most people do.
Yeah.
Unconscious, but you live your life as best you can. But it could be better.
I want to know, like when you opened your practice, I think you were over 80 when you decided to open a practice. Is that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yes.
And like, was it a guided decision, or how did you feel?
No.
No? How did you feel now it's time to do that?
I was resisting it totally because I was healing friends and I was healing family, and, you know, then people started coming to me and I wasn't charging for it. I was just doing it. And it got so that I had no time for myself. And I had no time for my spiritual practice, because by then I knew that spiritual practice was all important. And I simply didn't have time for anything. And people were coming and I was getting a little bit upset, you know, because there was no return to me. I was not having time for what I really wanted, which is my spiritual practice. And I still do that, want that more than anything else. And so I decided to start charging. And of course, some people didn't want to pay, which was fine with me because I had less clients and I had time for myself. I had time for my meditation. I had time. And then different people started coming to me. You know, first of all, it was just the physical healing. And now I was getting people who really wanted to connect to spirit.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
It's just amazing how these things happen all on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wasn't advertising, I wasn't looking for clients. They were phoning me, they were coming to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started charging. And then, of course, I do work with my own mentors, and I have people I work with who help me. And one of them said, you know, you must get a website. So I said, what? What for? You know, I couldn't even work a Facebook. I still can't work a Facebook. You tell me, you know, connect with me on Facebook, and I cringe. I said, I don't know how to do that.
But you know, I think you're so inspiring because, like, you open your practice, your healing practice over 80. You have a website. You do Skype sessions. We have this interview with Zoom. You have a Facebook page, and it's like, wow. I mean, you're really you're really in this time, you know, with all its technical aspects and the ways, like the ways you serve the world with your energy, and you use all the technology, and I think it's so beautiful.
Well, you know, when I connected with you, I wanted your technology days before so I could check it out and see what, you know, how it worked.
Okay.
Because in my experience, nothing ever works like I wanted to. They say, oh, you just click on it and it opens up. Yeah, it opens up with something and it says something to me that I don't even understand. You know, that's technology. So I say, what do I do with this? Where do I click? Tell me.
But you're doing wonderful. So you had your first homepage.
So I got an amazing lady to help me with my web page. And that was also guided because within days of my mentor telling me, you know, you should get a web page. So I said, I don't even know where to start. This lady comes into my life and we talk. I drive her wherever it was. And I get to know that she is a communications expert doing websites for people. So I didn't immediately say anything, but I thought to myself, my God, I mean, this is just coming to me. Maybe I should check it out. So I phoned her afterwards and we connected, and she's doing it all for me, and she's absolutely wonderful.
Oh. So maybe just like a little information piece. Can you tell us the name of your homepage so everybody can look you up?
Ouch.
It's like full. Hang on, I have it open here. Jania Aebi.
.com, I think.
Yeah. I put it in the newsletter as well. JaniaAebi.com. Yeah.
Okay, because I tell you, she's doing it all, and I've only just recently gone on it and when I do, I say, where do I go now? I phone her and I say, what do I do with this? I can't even look at my own page.
But you have one.
I have one, yes, I have one. And I trust that other people better at technology than me will be able to go and look at it.
And you even have a Facebook site.
I even have a Facebook. It took me, it took me over 2 years to even get a photo on my Facebook. I did not want to put a photo on my Facebook.
Why is that?
I don't know. I'm just not comfortable was sharing myself with the whole world. And yet this is what I'm doing with you right now. And in a way, it's beautiful, I must say, but in other ways, it is so, so scary.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to say more about the scary part? Because I know that many people find it so difficult to become visible and find it scary.
Yeah. Yes, I've always liked being invisible. I was kind of predisposed to being invisible. I don't know why, but I was brought up in Poland during the war years, where being invisible was really a good thing, and talking about anything that was of any interest or value or importance, was scary because you never knew who would be listening to you. And so we were taught as children, never to talk out loud, especially with strangers around, never to say anything, just sit still, keep in your corner, and don't make yourself noticeable.
So being visible was really dangerous.
It was dangerous. Of course, it's not dangerous anymore, but the idea that this is what you should do is still there. So that's why it's scary.
Yeah, I understand. And I really want to honor our interview, because I thought it's so it has so many aspects of this new time. Because I remember you told me you grew up in Poland, and I think the Gestapo was in your house, like they have had a residency there.
Yeah. The general in who was in charge of the Krakow town and neighborhood took over the house, the ground floor, the first floor, all his guards and his soldiers, and we were up on the second floor. The whole family went up to the second floor, and so that, we always had them. And I'll tell you a very funny story. We were up on the second floor, and the windows of our room, we were 3 children, were facing the main square and the main entrance to the house, of course. And there was a guard, walking up and down all day long, 24 hours in front of the house, a guard. And we were sitting up. I remember that so vividly. It was, we were having fun actually at that time. And we made, the 3 of us decided we were going to spit down and try and hit his helmet as he was passing under the... And I know, it's just ridiculous, isn't it? So there we were, up on the second floor, and it took some time for the spittle to go. You had to calculate the time, you had to calculate the wind, and everything. And every time it hit, we were so happy about it, so happy. And I only learned much, much later. I mean, I was totally grown up and out of Poland by that time, and it was through a letter from my grandmother that I learned that the general used to go up to see her and say, "Will you tell your grandchildren to stop spitting on my soldiers?" And she never did. She never told us a thing.
Wow.
She never did. She was a wonderful woman.
Wow.
She was amazing. Yeah.
I love this story.
That was funny.
So it's like adjust to the circumstances and still keep your joy and your freedom and your expression. And Yeah. But I think
Yes.
I remember that you were hiding Jews in your house as well. Did you? Is that correct?
Yeah, my grandmother was. Yeah. Yes, she was. Because at one point, I was out in the dining room or living room or whatever, and this man came in that I didn't know at all. And I was kind of taken aback because I didn't expect anybody to be in the house that I didn't know, that is. And my grandmother came in and she said, okay, I'm going to stay with this man now, you can go to your room. And then afterwards she came in to me and she said, you must never ever tell anybody you saw him, because I have to hide him. And if anybody ever knows that he's here, then we could all be in awful trouble. We could all really, and he would be in awful trouble. So
Yeah.
don't ever, ever say anything to anybody. And I never did to anybody until I think now that I'm telling you this. Well, I mean, I told you this. That's the first time I ever said. And that's how many years? 70 years I never said anything.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, she was hiding this Jew. And she may have been hiding more of them, over the years that I never saw. I wouldn't know. This one I did see.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
I have a question. How did it feel like after you surrendered to this message? You're supposed to be a healer. You went to all these trainings. You set up your healing practice. And how does it feel now? Like after you've gone through this challenge to do something that you didn't want to do, and now you're here and you have your practice, and I suppose your life changed a lot.
Well, my life has gotten really busy. Really busy. Yeah, people say that when you retire, you have all the time to yourself, and it is, to me, it's exactly the contrary. But it's wonderful. I absolutely love doing that. And, I started, the wisdom of spirit, of source is amazing, because when I started, I was given just one thing to do: become a healer. Mm-hmm. Even if it was scary, even if I didn't know how to do it, it was one thing. And I thought, well, maybe I can learn. It's just one step. Spirit never gives you more than one step at a time. Mm-hmm. And if you go for it, if you do that one step, you will be shown the next step. Mm-hmm. And then you will be shown the next step. Mm-hmm. If I had been shown at that time when I was sitting there with my foot, if I'd been shown everything that I'm doing now, I would have totally freaked out. And I said, no way, mm-hmm. I'm not in. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to do it. I don't want to. I know nothing about it. It's too much. It's scary. It's just too much. Mm-hmm. But you're never given the whole thing. And things evolve as you go along.
Mm-hmm. And is there any advice you could give to people who feel the need to do something and to change and to find the voice, but all they see is like it's foggy? Like, what advice do you have for people who don't see the next step? Like, who don't have somebody walk up to them and tell them, you're supposed to do this. Like, what kind of advice do you have for those guys?
I would just say, look at what you would like to do. Mm-hmm. If you had all the money in the world, if you had all the support in the world, if you didn't have anything else to do, you were sitting here, and what would you like to do? There's always something you like to do and you want to do. You can even go into your childhood and look at the things you were doing. As a child, maybe you were painting or playing the drums or whatever it was you liked doing and that you haven't done for a long time because of, because you're grown up, you're supposed to do other things, you have a family, you have children, you have a lot of other things to do. But what is it you really like to do and want to do, all other things being equal?
And from your experience working with Source so closely, what do you see as the biggest obstacle for people to follow their joy or follow their intuition? Like what is keeping us from doing that?
I think it's fear.
Mm-hmm.
It's fear of failing, fear of not being able to do it, fear of what people will say. If I start doing this, everybody will think I'm crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I lose my friends, I lose my family. I don't have time to do this. That's me. I don't have time to do this. That's a big one. Yeah, that's a really big one.
I remember that we talked about your own story, finding your guidance. Like I remember that that you said I wasn't into, like I think you were raised Catholic.
Yes.
Feel very Catholic, and it didn't want to have to do very much with God like in previous years, but life kind of kicked you into this stream.
Well, the thing is, yeah, I was raised a Catholic, but very early on, I simply could not understand why we were taught certain things, such as, it's not current anymore because Catholic religion has changed quite a lot since the days I was a child. But we were taught that only Catholics and people who believe in Jesus would go to heaven. Mm-hmm. And that's a thing that even at the age of 6, I couldn't understand. And I said, what about all those poor people, who lived before Jesus came? I said, that's not possible. Mm-hmm. They didn't have Jesus, so they're all going to hell. And of course I was told, come on, you don't think about these things. It's too complicated for you. But believe in Jesus. And, a lot of things like that.
But would you like to tell us the story, your time you spent in South Africa and like how life helped you to find your guidance?
Yeah, yes, it did. I went to Africa actually of my own accord. I went for a job and I loved it over there. And within a couple of years, I met my husband, who was also working for the same company as I was. He came in from the Cameroons. I was in Nigeria. And so we met, and after a while we married. We married over there, and I've lived in Africa ever since. And at one point, he was traveling a lot because he was responsible for the whole of French Africa. And 50% of his time he was traveling to one country or another, all the French African countries. And one day he was going to take a plane again. And so he went in the morning, and then about an hour later came back which was very unusual because he never used to come back. He said, the plane was late. I thought I'd come back and give you a last hug.
Wow.
And the planes were late routinely, and that had never happened. And I felt something really pretty special about that. And so we just had a hug, had 5 minutes conversation. He said, okay, I need to go back now. And the plane crashed and he never came back.
Wow.
He stayed in a coma for 2 days, and he died without ever regaining consciousness. And so then I had to leave. I had to leave my house. I had to leave Africa. I had to leave the country within a month because the work permit was in his name, of course. And so I had a month to pack up everything and leave. And, there were countless problems, of course, because the circumstances of the crash were totally unclear. There were police, asking questions all the time. Dealings with the lawyer, dealings with the bank, dealings with the embassy. Countless problems, in addition to the fact that I didn't know where to go because I'd been living in Africa for 27 years. I had nowhere to go, really.
It's like unimaginable. Like when you tell this, it's like it's so difficult to imagine the density of like grief and pressure and uncertainty. And I think you had a son as well, right?
Yeah, my son was 13 at that time, and he absolutely loved his father. His father was his God for him. Absolutely. So he was really upset and acting out. Anyway, so the time came, 2 days before my plane ticket out, I looked around at my house and crates everywhere, boxes everywhere. I had been trying to pack, but it seemed like nothing was packed. None of the financial issues or legal issues or embassy issues had been solved. Not one. Everything was still up in the air. And I thought to myself, there's nothing more I can do. It was midday. I had I had half this day, the next day, and then the next day I was leaving. And nothing was done. So I sat myself down in the middle of the living room, and I remember I talked to God again. We always talk to God when we're in trouble, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. I talked to God and I said, God, this is impossible. This is just impossible. Unless you do something, nothing is going to get done, and I'm okay with that. I will just leave everything just as it is, and I will go. And that kind of a peace came over me, because I had totally given over control. I wasn't going to do anything anymore. And I was okay with whatever would come.
Wow.
If nothing was done, I was okay with that. And if something would come, it wasn't coming from me. It was coming from somewhere else. It was maybe not my first, but my first conscious surrender. It was conscious. I've had the feeling before when I was 12, but that wasn't all that conscious. This was a conscious surrender. And believe it or not, that afternoon, a couple of neighbors came in and said, we thought you'd be needing help with, your last minute arrangements and packing and whatever. can we do anything?
Wow.
So I remember I just waved my hand around and I said, pack. You know. And then the bank manager came in that afternoon. The bank manager came with a briefcase. And I can say this now because it's over 40 years ago and it's no big deal. But he said, okay, I'm giving you all this money. Never tell anybody I did. Just sign this and keep the money. And, you know, I'll be in trouble if you ever say anything.
Wow.
So he brought me the balance of the account, everything, which he wasn't supposed to do. And that's saying something for the bank manager.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the police commissioner came with him. He said, the police commissioner is going to stay with you until you go. He's going to take you to the airport and stay with you until you go because of all this money in cash.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So they were protecting you as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, the lawyer came that same afternoon with papers to sign, and the consul came with papers to sign, and I was sitting there signing papers. I didn't even know what I was signing. I signed it all, and it was all done in one afternoon.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. And that really got me on a spiritual path, because there was nothing really I could do. I just had to turn to God, because, well, life was going to be really difficult.
So
I had to go to Europe. I didn't know Europe anymore. It was, yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
Would you describe that as like your biggest shift or the biggest conscious turning point in your life?
Not anymore, no. At the time, I thought it was the biggest. I thought there could be nothing worse. But there was. There was something worse, because then years afterwards, you know, I had a son. He was 13 when my husband died, and he was now grown up, and he was actually starting his own financial company. He was a wizard at finances, an absolute wizard. I'm hopeless. He got it from his father, who was amazing. Amazing. But he was going to start his own company, and he had a week before the papers were going to be signed for some reason, and he said, okay, I will not be able to take a holiday for years after I start this, so I'm going to take one now. And as he was a deep sea diver also, he said, I'm going to Egypt, to Hurghada, to go diving and coral reefs and all that sort of thing, deep sea diving. So he went on a holiday, and for a week, and 2 days later, I get a phone call from the police asking me whether I was Albert Aebi's mother, and I said, yeah. And I immediately felt something was gone wrong. And so the police gave me a phone number. They said they couldn't tell me what was happening, but I could phone this man and he'd tell me what to do. So I phoned, and I learned that my son had been hit by a car and was in a coma in the hospital in Cairo, in Hurghada. And the hospital was small, wasn't equipped for that kind of a injury, and he was going to be flown to Cairo that day or the day after. You can imagine.
Wow.
So first thing I did was try and get a plane ticket to Cairo. Of course, there were no places on any plane for a week.
Wow.
For a week. So I said, okay, I'm going to the airport. I went to Zurich and I sat at the airport. I kept phoning the consul, the man in charge of Swiss people in foreign countries, you know. And I kept phoning him and I said, you've got to do something because there is no place on any plane for a week. I'm sitting at Zurich airport and I've got to get a place right now. So I sat there for, I think, about 12 hours. And they called my name and they said, we have a place for you. So I was in Cairo the next day. And I learned a whole lot of stuff. But anyway, the basics were that my son had been willfully murdered by the man who actually waited for him at the entrance of the hotel. And when he saw him leave with one of the receptionists, they were going out to dinner, he just drove into them, and that was it. I stayed in Cairo for a week. No, for 3 days, 4 days. And he was getting better, so he was going to be flown back to Switzerland. And I wouldn't be able to be on the plane with him because it was a hospital plane. And so they said, go back and get in touch with the hospital, with the Lausanne hospital, when you get back. So this is what I did. And they called me. No, I got there before he did. So I called them immediately and they said, he will be coming in tonight and we will call you when he's in so that you can come. So they called me in the morning and they said, you can come to hospital. So I did. And when I got to the hospital, they told me he was dead. Yeah, that called for a whole new level of acceptance and forgiveness. And I must say, I had been trying to forgive for many years. And I thought I'd gotten somewhere with it. But the level of forgiveness was not what I thought it was. And I really got to the new level not so long ago, last year, during a meditation, when again it dawned on me that everything is always in divine order. That nothing bad ever happens, and if it seems like it's something bad, it is just for the highest good of everybody concerned. Everybody who is concerned in any way with that happening, it's always for the highest good of all of them. And so I got to understand it was for my highest good. so that I could get to a level of forgiveness where I could see that the man who did it, he had a contract. He had a contract with me, he had a contract with Albert, so that maybe Albert could go on to a different life than the one he was planning, so that I could get to a level of forgiveness and understanding that everything always works out for the best. When I understood this, it so filled me with unconditional love that I really could bless that man who had agreed to play the role of a villain, to be put in prison, because he was, for 5 years, to play that role so that I could get to a level of forgiveness that I could never get to otherwise. And so as from last year, I am really, I can bless the murderer. I can totally forgive him and love him as if he was a friend. Even if sadness is still there. But another thing I could never understand is how I could have asked for that to happen. How it was, the fact that we take total responsibility for everything that is in our lives. I understood that we've got, and most of the time, it's okay. I can take responsibility for everything that happens in my life. But here, I could not understand how I had asked this murder to take place. I mean, it just seems illogical. And thinking about this very strange thing, a very strange remembrance came into my mind, because when I was very small, not very small, when I was 8 or 9, I think, I was reading a lot. I was reading one book a day. I was told I was not allowed to take out more than one book a day, and that's all I could read. And I was reading one book a day. And one of the books I read at that time was a tale of the Teutonic Knights, the 14th century wars of, the Teutonic Knights that were in Prussia, up in the north of Poland. Mm-hmm. And we were forever fighting because they were trying to install Christianity into Poland. That was already Christian anyway, since 5 centuries. But anyway, these wars were going on. And it was a really well-written book. It was all about a man who had been captured by the Teutonic Knights, and he had been tortured in unspeakable ways for 10 years. And the war having ended, he had to be released, but so that he could never tell anybody, or maybe not even find his way home. His eyes were taken out, his tongue was cut off, and he was let loose on the roads to fend for himself. So it took him quite a few years to get back, but in the end he did. He got back to his village and his home, and his sons that were then grown up saw the state their father was in, and they said they went searching for this man who'd done this, and captured him and brought him bound hand and foot stood him in front of the father and put a knife into the father's hand and said, here he is, this is the man who did all this to you. The book was really well written because the father stood up with the knife in his hand and then felt, because he was blind, for where the man was, and lifted the knife and started cutting the bonds of the prisoner. Wow, it gives me chills as I think of it right now. But at that time, I remember that it gave me chills as well. And I thought, my one thought was, I would like to be able to forgive like that one of these days.
Wow.
And I'd never thought of this book until now, never. But the whole thing just came back to me. And I realized that I had been given the opportunity to implement the wish that I had when I was 8 or 9 years old, to be able to forgive.
But what a hard and heartbreaking way to get this lesson really served.
It wouldn't come in any other way. That is the way it was supposed to come, because I wouldn't have gotten it in any other way to that level. There are many levels, and maybe I will get to more levels, because levels are unending. You are never done, you are never done with what you're doing. There are so many levels that we aren't even aware of. And you can't jump from ground floor to 10th floor in one leap. You have to take it one step at a time. But every step gets you higher.
Yeah. I'm so touched by what you shared, and I thank you so much. And my heart is flying to you.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. Well, it brings up a lot of memories, and an interview like that.
You're such, I knew you're a brave spirit, but I didn't know how brave you are.
I'm not brave. Everybody has their own challenges. And everybody gets the challenges they actually need.
And they signed up for.
And that they have lined up for, whatever it is. So we always get what we need. This is why I tell my clients, you may not get what you want, but you will always get exactly what you need. You may not like it, but it's okay. I don't like everything that has happened to me, but that's okay. I got exactly what I needed. And I'm grateful. Even though I don't like it, I'm still really grateful for it.
I think that's one of the most profound and beautiful ways to what is the word, to bring your experience, oh my God, to have a dense version of your experience. You don't need to like what you get and can still be thankful for it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. You don't have to like it.
Yeah.
In fact, it would be stupid to like it, wouldn't it?
Because I know that it can be so hard to judge ourselves for not liking what we are served. And we think we should be doing better or be more forgiving or be more this or more that. And to allow ourselves to not like it and still surrender. I think it's such a profound insight.
Yes, yes. You can't like it.
Yeah.
You can't like everything that happens to you, but if you know that it is always for your highest good, then actually all the challenges, they're not really challenges. They are just invitations to expand and to grow. Don't call them disasters, and don't call them challenges. Call them an invitation to grow. And then ask the question, in what way am I supposed to grow? What else am I supposed to learn from this experience I'm having? How am I supposed to become closer to spirit because of this experience? Because spirit doesn't see anything bad in anything. And if you can get yourself to the level of seeing as spirit sees things, just as they are that. It's our judgment that makes them good or bad. Nothing else. I mean, events just are events. An event that touches me, like my son's death, yeah, I judge it as bad, maybe. But there are so many events right now in the world. I mean, look at what is happening in Syria and in the Middle East generally, and in Pakistan, in India. Look at all those things that are happening. They are traumatic to the people who are experiencing them. They are less traumatic to me who's just looking at it. They are not at all traumatic to somebody who's never heard of it. So an event is just an event. That's all it is. Whether it's traumatic or happy is your judgment of it. And if we can release the judgment, we can see more with the eyes of God. Not completely, but one of these days we may.
It's for the last weeks I've been really wondering, like, what kind of things we signed up for in this time, because like all the refugees and all the turmoil in this world, and when I look at it, I see a part of me that says, well, it's scary, but also like the thing I see most, it's, wow, it is like this huge movement of consciousness. Like all these events force us to become more aware and to become more conscious and to wake up.
It forces us to more than become aware and more conscious, far more, because it forces us also to be more compassionate.
Yeah.
We would never get the level of compassion that the world at large is now feeling unless there were these thousands, millions of refugees pouring into Europe, unless the disasters that happen all over the place, you know, if we were not aware of them. Now that we're aware, we can actually feel so much compassion, and the world needs that feeling of love and of compassion more than of hate and resentment and the fight against. Fighting against something never brings anything good to anybody. I mean, going around picketing, saying against war, against drugs, against this, that, or the other, does no good whatsoever. No, you've got to feel real compassion and real love for all those people who are suffering, because they have actually chosen. And this may not sit well with a lot of people, but we have all chosen exactly the experiences we are having. They have chosen at a level that they don't even realize, and we don't realize. At a far higher level, they have chosen to live that life of suffering so that we could give compassion, so that compassion would be the predominant feeling in the world, which would never happen without this. We would be just living our own little lives, comfortable or less comfortable, but within our own little cocoon. And the level of help we give to those people, the level of compassion and the level of love would never happen unless these terrible things were happening. And in this way, I think we can start understanding that everything that happens is for the highest good of me and you and everybody else that is concerned.
Yeah. Jania, I think this could be a moment to finish, but I'm not sure if it's almost asking too much, because I think you have been so generous with your love and your compassion and your wisdom. But this could be a way to close our session with, if you like, with a kind of meditation or prayer or invocation or inspiration for our listeners. And
I would love to do that.
Would you love to do that? I would be so honored if you did this with us.
I would just love to do that.
Does it feel like a good time to do that now?
Yeah, let's do it. And maybe at the end I will do a little healing process for everybody while we are in that space of deep connection. All right, so just sit comfortably. Close your eyes and don't close your eyes or listen to this if you're driving a car or if you're operating any machinery. Just listen to this if you are in a space where you can safely. Just be with that experience. So take a deep, deep breath. In through the nose and out through the mouth, filling the whole of your chest as deep as you can. Take another one, going even deeper. Breathing as if you were breathing through your root chakra. Just keep breathing deeply, keeping your awareness at the base of your spine. And feeling the peace come over you. And in your mind's eye, see a sphere of beautiful white light. And it's some distance in front of you, but it's coming closer. And it's sparkly. Notice as it grows larger and kind of expands, and it's moving towards you. And then you notice little sparks of light flickering in it. And the sphere still expands and grows. And it's now enveloping you from all sides. And it feels like a thick, warm blanket of love. You're now totally enveloped in it. You're becoming that light. You are becoming one of those sparks that are flickering, and you're becoming the cloud itself. Not a spark that is separate, but a spark that is totally one with that cloud, which is the divine, the source, the quantum field. It's also known as unconditional love. And it contains within it all joy, all harmony, all beauty, all comfort, all health, wealth, and the abundance without limit of every good thing. It's everywhere, it permeates everything. It contains everything, it is everything. It's just expressing as those sparks of light of which you are now one. Keep your focus on your breath. Keep breathing deeply. And as you inhale, realize you're taking in the divine. And every time you exhale, you're expanding your awareness a little more. You're first expanding it to the four walls of your room. The ceiling, the floor, the four walls. Then expand it to encompass the rest of your house or your apartment, wherever you live. Then you expand again to the size of the city you live in. And when you feel yourself at the limits of your city, expand even more to the boundaries of your country, and even more to the boundaries of the planet. And you go beyond the planet, you even go to the universe itself. You have now expanded as far as the universe goes, and therefore you have the whole of the universe within you. You are that spark, that point of brilliance in the limitless divine presence. And you are the consciousness that now extends to all of what the divine is. Become aware that you really are a light to the world that is all inside of you now. Become aware of the magnificence that you are. Become aware of the unconditional love that you are. Become aware of all the joy, the harmony, the beauty, the wisdom, the strength and the power you have, and that you are, and that you can express into a world that so much needs it. You, knowing that all there is love, that it contains all the qualities within it, and therefore has the power to return any condition that is other than it into its own perfection, is enough. You knowing it is enough. You can give it, you can radiate it to all those parts of yourself that look like they need it. To that part which feels unworthy, you say, I love you. to that part which feels inadequate or sad, powerless, helpless, manipulative. You say, I love you. I'm listening to you. I'm holding you close because you're a part of me and always will be. To that part of you that looks diseased or angry, judgmental, abandoned, I love you and I will never abandon you. How may I serve you? How may I look after you so you feel loved, valued, respected, on an even footing as every other part of me that feels safe, happy and joyful? I accept you exactly as you are, and I will never abandon you. And then just watch as all those parts of you quiet down, subside, stop sabotaging you and the efforts you're making to become a better human being. And they become your helpers in creating a life that you really want for yourself. They will no longer disturb the you that's so full of unconditional love towards them. And I rest in this awareness that this is so. And so I allow it to be. And while we sit together in this space of deep connection and love to every part of us, I would like you to bring to mind any issue, any problem that is bothering you right now, that maybe you don't like having, that's painful in any way, or disturbing, or limiting. You probably have many problems, but just for now, choose one. And I will be silent for a few minutes, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, while I anchor the pure energy from Source to assist you in whatever your problem or your challenge is. Always remember that Source will give you not necessarily what you want, but always what you most need for your growth and for your evolution. You can be sure it always will be for your highest good. But if you're not feeling sure that you want this, the energy, which is very intelligent, will just pass you by if you don't accept it. It knows what your desire is and always honors the free will of every person to choose for themselves what they want. So now I'll be silent while you bring to mind your problem, and I'll let you know when the energy is anchored. All right, you can bring your attention back now. And you can revisit this anytime you want, because the energy I anchored is always going to be active. Spirit knows no time, no space. It's always active. And it will continue to work all on its own. It has just started with you now. And it will go on for days or for weeks, or maybe for months, I don't know. As long as it needs to help you clear whatever your issue was, whatever you were thinking of. But what people often notice at first is that things seemingly unrelated to the issue just seem to fade away. And it's because there are levels. There are things covering your issue that have to be cleared before the energy can get to the root cause of whatever it is that your issue is. So if you notice that totally unrelated things seem to go better, that you are happier, more alive, more joyful, just be thankful. And be thankful for any improvement in any area. And know that the energy is working for you. You can revisit this at any time for any other issues that you may have. Just try and do one thing at a time, and not just a global release, because that will be quite difficult.
Thank you so much. I'm like all over.
How are you feeling?
It's so interesting because I had this amazing dream 2 nights ago of a huge ocean wave. And I came back to this huge ocean wave, and it kind of changed. It wasn't water anymore, but it was like a wave full of flowers and energy, and like this conscious, this wave of conscious evolution, or the evolution we are having on this planet. And I could feel myself in this wave. And
I'm getting chills all over. You were in that wave, and you know, you are that wave. The ocean is the divinity, the ocean is your source, and you are just the wave, never separate from that source.
exactly.
Sometimes you are a little wavelet just coming onto the beach and going back into the ocean, and sometimes you're that huge tsunami of anger and destruction, but you're still part of the ocean.
Yeah. And you know, like this wave was like a huge tsunami wave of evolution. And it was like a tiny droplet, but feeling so connected to all the other aspects of this change that we're experiencing right now.
That's beautiful.
I could like
That is an amazing insight you had. Ah, that's absolutely fabulous.
I'm so thankful, and I feel so blessed to meet you and to talk to you, and I'm so thankful for your generosity. Like,
It's been a real pleasure for me speaking to you.
thank
I
you.
would like to keep connecting, won't you?
I would love to. I would absolutely love to. I would be honored, and like part of this wave was also like a big wave of gratitude, because this is. You know, like the stream I had with the interviews, to create something that inspires people to find their calling and be part of this huge wave. And it feels like to start this series of interviews with you feels like such a big blessing from life.
I have been very, very blessed to be able to bring this to a bigger audience than just working with people one-on-one. I feel that this is going to help a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that is my further evolution too, to help more and more people.
I can sense that. And I mean, you're so special for me because you are yourself like this huge wave, like coming such a long way from the Second World War through traveling and living on different continents and finding your calling and surrender and facing these challenges and growing into this beautiful person that you are and sharing your gifts. And that for me is very, very special because I think I told you, like, we have all the crystal and indigo children, and we have who like just bring it, like they step onto the.
They're here. They're here. The children are amazing. I know so many children that are so aware, so really aware of things I wasn't aware of until late in life, and they, at the age of 15, 16, 20, they are so aware of all the things I would have loved to be aware of.
But you know, like the beauty for me is that you are like, I think you're such an inspiring example because you evolved into this energy and you bridge like so many worlds, and that's so important because the way you can like change and help people on this planet has so many facets because you have wisdom that is rooted on so many different places. And
I think I can tell people my age, you know, things that they will probably better understand than when their grandchildren tell them. Because they still have an idea that we old people should know better. We don't know any better. The kids know just as well and better than we do. But maybe it helps for some people to see that you can evolve even if you're quite old.
Absolutely. And you're like in this huge wave of evolution. And it's just like I feel so thankful. And I hope like that your work really goes on and on and on and reaches a lot of people.
I'm working on it, definitely. And thanks to you, it will. It will. It's a start. It will be beautiful.
So you have a practice in the French-speaking part of Switzerland in how do you?
In Puy, yes, in Puy, but people don't often come to my house, quite frankly. I work on Skype.
You work on Skype? Oh, that's
Oh,
awesome.
yes. I absolutely work on Skype. I have clients in America a lot because, I don't speak Swiss German. People have to speak to me in English. I don't really like working in French because I find the language not really suited to the energy that I transmit. I have to use so many words to explain to people, and I'm not even sure that they understand what I mean. So I much prefer working in English, and that has worked really well for me. A lot of people now do speak English.
So people can just reach out to you via your homepage, right?
Absolutely, yes. And I have an email, of course, and but my website, which I never go on, is the thing probably that will reach me, because my dear friend who's doing the website for me is monitoring it for me, so she lets me have everything that comes.
Great. And also, I think you do have an online seminar, is that right? Or are you going to do one? Or
I have I have on my website.
On your website, okay.
I have something. Oh yes, it's called the 7 Steps to Access Your Full Power, and it's a home study program that people can buy, but actually they can get it for a lot cheaper because of this interview I'm having with you. If they go online now or whenever you put it out, they can get that online program for a lot less money. I think it's something like $97.
Wow.
I'm not sure, instead of 400 and something, and I'm not really sure of what that is. But it's a big reduction for a limited time because of this interview we're having.
Thank you so much. So I will add the link to your offer of your 7-step program.
Yes, I think you will have to contact my Tanya, my assistant, to get the exact links, because I'm never sure I will give you the right link.
But I will add it.
Yes, you do that. You're good with technology, which I'm not.
Thank you so much, Jania.
Katarina, it's been a real pleasure.